Alright, so I just showed you how to lift up your car in an emergency with the jack that your car comes with. Now, obviously, that is not a way for you to lift up your car to work underneath your car. That is dangerous. Your car can fall. This jack is weak and is only meant for temporary use and emergencies only. On the left here, there is a jack stand. It's rated for 3 tons. DeWalt drill, which isn't really necessary, but it will make your life a lot easier. But the jack stand is necessary. Just a little tray with a magnet at the bottom, hold the bolts and the tools and the sockets and stuff, keep it in there. A breaker bar is very useful. Um, these things end up scratching your rims and leaving marks on it. And I would recommend everyone carry a torque wrench. This is a 1/2 inch torque wrench. I know you're not really supposed to put an adapter on a torque wrench because you kind of lose the accuracy of the torque, and sometimes these adapters don't really hold up to the amount of torque this thing can put out. But I don't feel like having 2 torque wrenches, and for the most part I use it for just putting my tires on and off. You'll be fine with just a 1/2 inch torque wrench and an adapter. That way, yeah, it'll be useful. And also recommend having a 1/2 inch breaker bar. Put an adapter on it if you need to. So I have a socket here that fits my lug nut. This fit here really tight, and figure it out. You put a drill to that and you can lift it up very fast. I'm gonna show you the back now. The back has the same thing the front has. Little notch, reinforced, tells you where. Alright, so the notch is right here. As you can see, it's all beat up and rusted because my car is beat up and rusted. And that's where we put our jack. We do the same thing that we did for the front here in the back. But there is one difference. This is where we want to put our jack stand. So what I usually do, and don't quote me on it, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but I put the jack further back. That way I can fit the jack stand at this point. So I would put it here, where you can see there's still kind of reinforcement here. There's two plates of metal, and it kind of dies off over here. Then it becomes weak. Over here, there's 2 plates of metal. This is the reinforced bump where your car can be lifted up at, right here. And I usually put the jack back here towards the end of this reinforced bump. That way I can fit the jack stand right here. This is where you would want it, so it can have it can hold your car well. You could also put it in other parts of the car underneath, but if you don't know much about what you're looking at underneath the car, I would stick to this right here. This part is always on all cars, so you can lift up the car and take off the tire and do work underneath and put jack stands and stuff. So yeah, let's do it. Alright, so you want to lift up the jack? Alright, now you want to get your jack stand. If you look underneath, you can see that it's right here. Now we want to jack up the car. We have our DeWalt drill, our socket that fits on there, and we want to have the setting on the drill so that it's not on its fastest setting. So basically most drills have 1 and 2 on top. You can see that 2 is super fast, and then 1 slows it down. And also the tension on the chuck, or on this part right here, you see you have, most of them have what, 1 through 15, and then they have basically they have one where it uses all the torque it can, depending on how strong your motor is. So basically on 15, there's going to be a point where it starts to click, and it doesn't want to give off more torque than this 15. But if you turn it here, it'll give off as much torque as it can take, or as it can give out. And I'll show you. So I'll put it on 11, and see, it doesn't have enough torque to lift up the car. Here, it's gonna have no problem lifting up the car. You know, when you start to get towards the top, you want to start to slow it down. I was speeding up in the beginning only because the car was still touching. And now that the tire is off the ground, I want to take it slow. Alright, so now we can slide the jack under and see how much space we have. See right here, we can lift up the jack. Alright, let's bring it back down. We gotta count the clicks, make sure it's the same on both sides. That way your car won't be lopsided. So it'd be 1, 2, that was 3. See, it clicked, but it didn't click all the way. So I pushed this handle down to see if it would click, and it didn't. Now, what I sometimes do is I just bang it to see if it'll work. But in this case, just gonna lift up the car a little bit more. See if I hear a click. Alright, so that's 3 clicks on the right side of the car, and we can start to bring down. We can slowly bring down the jack. Always looking at the jack stand, make sure that it's centered. Now, I heard it, I saw it and I heard it put the weight of the car on the jack. At this point, I would usually leave both of them together. I would put this jack here, not holding the weight of the car, just here for, well, it's there for support, but this is holding the majority of the weight of the car. This is just here as a backup. It just makes me feel safe, I guess. But if you're gonna lift up the other side of the car, then obviously you gotta take this out, get your other jack stand, repeat the process. Alright, so the car is jacked up, tires off the ground, but as you can see, I'm on a flat level surface. Now, the car's on a flat surface. If I pick up both of the tires in the back, if this tire is picked up and the other tire is picked up, the car is not really going to roll anywhere. Especially when your car is in park, there's a little a metal tab that stops your transmission from turning. So that'll stop your car from rolling away or getting off the jack stands or the jack and rolling away. But I'm on a flat surface and that's unlikely to happen. Now, people jacking up their cars on a hill, I would say I wouldn't recommend it unless it's an emergency. And if you do have to jack up your car, I would do it one side at a time. For example, if I had to do work on the back of the car, I would jack up only this side of the car and leave all 3 other tires on the ground. That's with the e-brake on. If for some reason you have to jack up the back of the car and you can't use your e-brake because you have to take off your rotors, or you have to replace a wheel hub bearing, I would say let your car roll back. Let it roll back on the transmission. Let the transmission stop the car, before you jack it up, or make sure your car is fully pushed back before you jack it up, and then slowly, very slowly, start to jack up your car like I just did. Make sure you use a jack stand and do it to the other side if you have to in an emergency while you're on a hill. That's uphill or downhill. The front of the car is pretty simple. Whether you're on a hill or not, you could always just put the e-brake on. If your e-brake is set right, it can hold the weight of the car and your e-brakes aren't wasted, broken, or not adjusted, then it should be fine. You can lift up both sides of the front of the car and your car won't roll back. Alright, that's it for today. I'm hungry. I'm getting something to eat. I need you guys to subscribe, like, dislike, comment, write some bad stuff, write some good stuff. I want it all. I'll see you next time.